Because I was a people pleaser, I avoided having hard conversations.
You're listening to Overwhelmed Working Woman, the podcast that helps you be more calm and more productive by doing less. I'm your host, Michelle Gauthier, a former overwhelmed working woman and current life coach. On this show, we unpack the stress and pressure that today's working woman experiences. And in each episode, you'll get a strategy to bring more calm, ease, and relaxation to your life.
Hi, friend. I have a great interview for you today, which is my former client, Tasha. And if you're a person who's ever struggled with people pleasing or setting boundaries or saying no without guilt, this episode is going to be a great one for you. When you listen, you'll learn how to build in a pause before responding, which Tasha will tell you is one of the keys to learning to stop people pleasing. You'll learn how to stop saying yes out of habit or guilt, and how to confidently set boundaries at both work and home. Tasha was really generous in sharing all the details. She shares her journey from being a total people pleaser to a confident decision maker, and she explains the practical strategies that she used to learn how to stop people pleasing, and you can start using those today too. So by the end of this episode, I have a feeling you'll feel really empowered to protect your own time and speak up for yourself and make decisions that feel good to you. Let's dig in. I think you're going to really enjoy getting to know Tasha today. Thank you so much, Tasha, for being with me today.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Can you tell the audience just a little bit about yourself, like where you live and what you do? And then I will jump into some questions about coaching.
Yeah. So I live here in Towson, Maryland. I am a wife, a mom of two kids that are 14 and 8. So I have a son that's Zane and then a daughter that is Tenley. They keep us very busy. For sure.
Yeah. So you're working at what I would call a high stress job. And you also
Yes.
have your kids are at that age where you're doing still a lot of driving for them and taking them places and et cetera.
Mhm.
I think it's very relatable.
Yeah.
Okay. So how did you feel before we started coaching?
Before coaching, I was always a people pleaser, to be honest. I wanted to please everybody that came in contact with myself. So, because I was a people pleaser, I avoided having hard conversations.
Mhm.
I hated them. And, I was always in other coaching groups, I should say. Never did the one-to-one coaching, but I did, group coaching. But, one day my boss suggested you and I meet. So she was like, you should do one-to-one coaching. And I was like, great. And then once you and I met, I felt like we really kicked it off and was looking forward to our weekly meeting.
Okay, good. I love that. So when you were more of a people pleaser, because spoiler alert, we're going to talk about how you aren't anymore, but when you were a people pleaser, did you realize it?
No, I
Okay.
didn't.
Okay.
Uh,
And
yeah.
that is so common. Me neither. When I was a major people pleaser, I always thought, well, I'm just nice and I want people to like me and those kinds of things. So if somebody is listening right now and they're like, "Oh, I might be a people pleaser." Just know you're not alone if you haven't realized that you're a people pleaser yet and you're realizing it now. Just a reminder, it's a habit and it's a habit that can be broken, and we're going to talk about how. So,
Mhm.
if we're staying with the problem, how did being a people pleaser impact your work life?
I would say because I always wanted to make everybody happy. So, you know, what I did hear before is my boss came to me and was like, "Can you create this call center? Like, we're getting a lot of phone calls. Like, create this call center." And I'm like, "Don't know how to, but sure, I can
Mhm.
figure this out." And with doing that, I had to have a lot of hard conversations with the team on like how they take a phone call. We deal with death and disability here, which is not fun conversation.
Yeah.
And, when a loved one calls in, we want to have that empathy there. And some of the team members on my team didn't always have that empathy. And I have so much empathy to go around for everybody.
Yeah.
So I had to have a lot of hard conversations, especially if someone calls in and goes, my mom just passed. And the team member saying, okay, instead of, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry you're going through this. So there are times that I had to like have those hard conversations with them. And it was hard for me because I didn't want to hurt their feelings.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I know at the end of the day, I had to, and it took a lot for me to have those hard conversations.
Yes, and it's so uncomfortable, right, to have those kind of conversations,
Hmm.
especially when you have had like different positions where maybe you didn't have to have those hard conversations as much. But as you kept moving up in the working world, which you have been
Hmm.
doing for what, 15 years, just getting promoted, you get more responsible positions and then you have to have more of those kinds of conversations.
Yes.
So when we started coaching, a lot of times when I'm first talking to people, they're like, well, when am I going to feel better? Because I work with people for 6 months, as you very well know. And so they want to know, when am I going to start feeling better? So, what would you say to that question? When did you start feeling better? How did you know, oh, this is working?
I noticed it was working because I started saying no, and I had to set boundaries, which was something new for me. I never
Yes,
had
I'm
to
laughing
really
because
do that before.
you guys can't see Tasha's face right now, but she said, I'm saying no, and had this look like, what the heck? All of a sudden, the word no's coming out of your mouth for the first time ever. Yes.
Yeah. And then I also noticed whenever we do performance reviews here, and I met with my boss, who I've been with her for almost 11 years within this company. And
Yeah.
it just started off being her and I. So she saw Tasha coming in, who could probably barely write an email when I
Yeah.
first started.
Yeah.
So she literally sat me down and she was like, "You are completely different." She was like, "You're way more confident." And that really felt amazing to me. Like, wow, she
Yeah.
sees it. So if,
Yeah.
other people are starting to see it, then okay, this is working.
Yes, exactly. And then when you feel confident, you're so much more likely to have those tough conversations and be
Mhm.
upfront and honest with people.
Yes.
Okay, great. So, what do you think was one of or some of the best things that you learned in coaching?
I learned to pause before saying yes. And I gained awareness around my automatic people pleasing skills. If
Yes.
that was skills, I don't even know.
Yeah.
But it actually came down to the kids. There are times that I would come home, walk in the door, and I got bombarded with 1,000 different questions. And when you go from working in an office and dealing with people every day and managing people, and then you have to go home and you're still technically working, you're a mom. Like,
Yeah.
being a mom is a full time job. So
Yeah.
then it's like, I need that decompression time to reset myself. And with the kids, asking me a million questions and before I even put my purse down, now after saying, hold on, I just walked in the door and saying that for like a solid month, the kids don't ask me anymore. I walk in and they're like, hey, mom, how was your day? And don't ask me a million questions as soon as
Yes.
I walked in.
Yes, that is such a win, and
Yeah.
I think that is also really common that when you get I'm just picturing everyone, like, walking in their back door and their kids running up to them. I feel like it's the same everywhere. "Mom, can you take me here? Can you take me here?" And when we're saying yes in that moment, it's really just our way to say, like, "Give me a minute." Like,
Hmm.
I don't wanna have the whole conversation with you about no or why this won't work right now. I just need to, like, set down my bag and go change my clothes and get a drink of water and, like, pull myself together a little bit. So I think
Hmm.
by you not even being available to evaluate the question, like, don't
Right.
ask me questions right now. Just give me a few minutes and then I will be able to say yes or no. And do you feel like you say yes when you want to say yes and no when you want to say no to your kids now? Because I remember at the beginning you said, I
Yeah.
feel like I say yes to them too much. I don't know what too much is, but I remember you telling me that.
Yeah. No, there is definitely time. And the kids will joke now. They'll ask me something and I'm like, no. And they're like, you just said no. And I'm like, yeah, the answer is no.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, oh, can we do this? No. And they just
Yeah.
like ask me like a bunch of random things and they just laugh now because they're like, wow, mom's saying no.
Yeah,
Like,
look at
yeah.
this. Mom's got it. Yeah. And it's another reminder too that when we change in a way that's good for us, sometimes other people don't like it. So let's take your boss, for
Mhm.
example. She liked it. She was like, this is great. You're, more confident. You're saying no to your employees. You're having these hard conversations, and your kids are like, wait, where's that mom who would always say yes? So I
Mhm.
think even though other people sometimes don't like it, they're not used to it. Can you think of any ways that it has been better for your family that you're not saying yes all the time?
Not really. I don't know if it's just because my kids just adapted to it so
Yeah,
quickly. My kids are
yeah,
very adaptable, which is I think a blessing more than like a,
Amazing.
yeah,
Yes, that is especially 2 of them. Usually you might get
yeah,
one who's easygoing, but 2,
yeah.
that's amazing. Yes. Okay, great. And then you mentioned building the pause in to your people-pleasing nature. So how did you do that? If you went from not realizing you were people-pleasing to trying to stop, how did you build in that pause?
I just took a minute and like would breathe instead of
Yeah.
just automatically just jumping right into like the yes or the no. Like I just take a minute and like I breathe. That way I know, okay, like what answer do I really need to give this person?
Yes, yes. I just saw this meme yesterday that was like, you don't need to respond to everything in 1 second. You're not Amazon Prime. And I was like, exactly. We feel
Love
like
that.
we have to. Like the second you get a text, our body's like,
Right.
ooh, this is an emergency. You have to respond to it, even if it's not important. And so being
Hmm.
able to pause when someone has asked you a question and even to say things like to your kids, I don't want to answer this right now, or don't ask me any questions right now, or
Hmm.
to a boss or an employee, thanks for asking me. I just need to think about that a little bit. Like, buy yourself some time if you're not good at saying no yet. Once you get good, you can just quickly evaluate and be like no or yes. But at first, you just need to build
Hmm.
that pause in there.
Yeah. And that's one thing that you actually taught me because I would get like email, like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night. And I thought I had to respond to it right away. And with
Right.
your coaching, you're like, no, you don't. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Because what happens when you do that is people send you those at 8 o'clock at night and
Hmm.
expect you to respond. So you can
Right.
teach them how to treat you. And obviously, you're a very reliable employee and get to the office in the morning and answer your emails. What
Hmm.
difference does it make? Right.
Right. Hmm.
Okay. What was your favorite thing about coaching?
Getting to see you weekly, honestly. There are so many times that I was like, well, like, wow, Michelle really gets it. You were so relatable and you understand like the working slash mom life, which was,
Yeah.
very helpful. And there's also times I remember I would join the call and I would be in tears, like worst day of my life, with work or even if it was home. I felt like I was able to express a lot of things to you and you would just help me get through it. And then there's times that I'm like, well, Michelle, I think I need to talk about budgets today because I just am a hot mess with budget.
Yeah.
And, you gave me a lot of tips. My husband gave me a lot of tips. And just, I think it was, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, I'm officially debt free, which
Oh
felt
my
amazing.
gosh. That is amazing. I know you were totally working on that. Oh,
Yeah.
yay. What a great
So,
win. Yeah. So it's interesting when we're doing coaching for 6 months and we meet every week because at the beginning of the session, I always ask everyone for wins. And then I say, what do you
mhm,
want to work on this week? And so let's say you came to me for coaching about people pleasing, but that day you were feeling really stressed about your budget. I was like, let's talk about it because the tools that
mhm.
we use for anything can be applied to anything. So,
Yeah.
hey, before you spend, pause and ask yourself, why am I buying this? Do I really
Yep.
want to? And tell yourself, okay, I'm capable to manage my money. So I absolutely love that. Congratulations on being
Yeah.
net debt free.
Oh, it
Yay.
was amazing. Great feeling.
Oh, that's the best.
Yeah.
Good. So just in general, how would you say your life is different now compared to before we started?
I feel like now I just get stuff done. Before I always thought about everything and I would just dwell on the littlest things. But now I just get it done. My mind is clearer. Sometimes, yeah, my old patterns still want to come into play, but I know how to manage them better.
Yes, and I think that's the ultimate goal because my old patterns still come into play and I'm doing this like every day for 8 years now of doing working on my mindset, but they just come up, but it's not a big deal. It's just to be like, "Oh, I notice I felt, this is me, not you. I felt the urge to people please someone and I noticed it and I'm not going to do it, but that's interesting that it still came up." And then you just move on. It doesn't
Hmm.
even have to be a big deal.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. Now I'm going to ask you the 2 questions that I ask everybody when they're on the podcast. What is something that you do to make yourself feel less overwhelmed?
Well, coming from a girl here who had the worst anxiety ever, I use all the breathing techniques. There is
Mhm.
times that you've taught me breathing techniques. I went through therapy and, learned a bunch of breathing techniques through that. And I always use them, before having hard conversations, or if it's something that's still outside my comfort zone that I'm not really sure about yet. But I always remind myself that everything is okay.
Yeah.
Like everything's fine. And I just
Yeah.
breathe.
Yes. Yes. And that's such a good tip because breathing is always with us and you can do it without other people even noticing. Like if you're doing square breathing or something like that, you can just be counting in your head,
Mhm.
when you're in public or in a meeting or whatever it is. So that's a great tip.
Yeah.
What's something you consistently do to save time or do less?
I started ordering groceries online only because it saves me time now that I don't have to go to the grocery store for an hour or so. I do, online groceries. I'll either pick them up, get them delivered, but it also helps me avoid those impulse buys that I'd always have when I went to the store. So now that like my husband put me on that very strict budget, that I don't overspend now on groceries or even Target. We'll do Target online orders or anything online instead of me actually physically going to the store because one, it saves time, and then my budget's
Yeah. In
the
this case,
nightmare if I walk
save-
into a store.
yes, it's saving you time and money. This is good
Yeah.
for your budget and your time. That's great.
Yeah.
Ordering online from Target is a great idea because I just went in there last night real quick to pick up something for dinner that I was going to grill. And I was like, I better just run by the summer dresses. Let's see if they have any cute tank tops. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, do I need some new self tanning lotion? And pretty soon you're like $100 in on just going in there. I was picking up like bratwurst to put on the grill. And then pretty soon you pick up all these things. So that is a great tip.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So what would you say to somebody who's thinking about doing one-on-one coaching?
Take the chance. Like, honestly, take the chance. And especially if they're like a mom that's in the business world, like, definitely set up a call with you. Like, you totally get it. Like,
Yeah.
it's so helpful.
Yes, yes. I've been there and I'm also still there.
Yeah.
It's like being a working mom is always the same. It's
Yeah.
just different how you can handle it. Okay, great.
Mhm.
Well, thank you so much and congratulations on being debt free and not people pleasing and being so much more confident. That is just something that will keep on serving you throughout the rest of your life. And we are just for the listeners, we did coaching together for 6 or 9 months and we're finished now. And we've been finished, gosh, since January, maybe. We've been finished for like 6 months and this stuff is still going and the skills are ongoing. So great job. And thank you for sharing your story.
Of course. Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed that interview today and that you were able to get some great tips about how to stop people pleasing and make more confident decisions. If this is an area where you struggle and you're interested in working with me one-on-one like Tasha did, I will drop the link in the show notes. You could always just send me a message too if you're interested in doing that, but I'll drop the link where you can, first of all, read a little bit more about what one-on-one coaching is like. And then you can schedule a free discovery session with me to find out if it's something that you really might want to do. All right. Have a great week. See you soon. Thank you for listening to the Overwhelmed Working Woman podcast. If you want to learn more about my work, head over to my website at michellegothier.com. See you next week.